Hey, do you mind if I use your toilet?
Why? What's wrong with yours?
Don't trust it. I think the government's got a wire on mine.
And what makes you say that?
I'm like 5% sure the plumber I hired is a leak.
Really? I thought I did a pretty good job. Okay. Well, wouldn't there be something on mine also?
Fuck, you're right. I'm gonna have to get my friend over here to install some new ones.
If it makes you feel better, just not out of my wallet. Oh, long time no see. Why the f did you click on this video? It's me, Anthony. You know, a lot has changed since the last time we were together. But hey, I decided one man's arson is that same man's opportunity to move out to California. It's perfect out here. Nature's the one who starts the fires, not humans. You can live in some of the highest debt I've ever seen, and I've got a roommate. His name's Conspiracy Theory Chris, which is what he likes to be called. At least he's self-aware about his outrageous claims, because he has like an existential crisis every minute. But if living with him means I have a home here in Cali, then I'll take what I can get. Oh, but you wouldn't believe the move out here though. Oh my goodness. That reminds me. I think I might have forgotten something very valuable to me back in Ohio, but what was it?
Hey, bad news, dude. It looks like there's no bar arcades for us to get lunch at.
No! My MAME Arcade! That's what I forgot! Oh no. How am I supposed to play my arcade classics now? Unless... I don't really want to do this, but I've got no other option. I mean, how bad could it really be? Oh no. Oh, Jesus Christ. Arcade ports. Oh, my favorite. I mean, the concept of them is great. Instead of having to actually go to a place that has the game, you can buy a cartridge that's 1/10 of the size, take that bad boy home, and enjoy some of that amazing and simple gameplay that they provide. But instead, I live in pure fear of these things because I can't help but be underwhelmed every single time. However, since I don't have my MAME Arcade to play the original versions, I'm gonna have to go through and rank each one of these games based on their playability and accuracy to the original arcade. The most notable case of this was with the release of Pac Man for the Atari 2600 in 1982. I mean, everyone and their grandmother is aware of how infamous this game and E.T. were for Atari back in the day, with many claiming that both games were huge contributors to the US's video game crash that followed in '83. The interesting thing about the game was that the original programmer, Todd Fry, said that the game could have been better. This is because Atari limited Fry to only use a 4KB ROM cartridge rather than the 8KB to save on manufacturing costs. The game is just not good. The ghosts are basically transparent all the time, so you don't know when you're able to really eat them or not. They sometimes even overlap with each other, and the sound effects are just horrendous and ear-piercing. And to be honest, the game is also really easy with only 2 ghosts, so there's no real replayability, which is what made the original arcade game so popular. Most of the library for the 2600 consisted of arcade ports, and many aren't that good. Only a few titles were actually simple enough to translate on the system, but for me personally, they just aren't that fun. Atari ports? No go. Well, these have to be better, especially the ones made by Nintendo. Those could surely run on the NES, right? Oh, can't forget about this. Wait, what? No, what? That's wide. I mean, why change the aspect ratio to be so different? I understand the original monitor in the cabinet is vertical, but there's no reason they couldn't have just crushed it in. Now, everything just feels proportionally wrong. And why doesn't Donkey Kong play the same as the arcade, with controlling the barrels by moving the joystick left and right? Now it just feels totally random in comparison, making it extremely hard. You're telling me they were able to make Super Mario Bros. But couldn't fit the fucking cement factory in this game? As a huge fan of Donkey Kong, this is largely different and not anywhere as good as the arcade game. I'm not a fan of Donkey Kong Jr., but at least they got most of that gameplay right. But I don't know, Junior over here looks like he had one too many bananas. He's getting pretty chubby. Pac Man, maybe this time they'll finally get some redemption and the ghosts are slow. This makes it way easier in comparison to the arcade. It's actually hilarious. At least they tried to fix the wideness issue by putting the scores off to the side, but still it feels kinda off. I'm not even gonna put games like Double Dragon on this list because they're totally different from their arcade original. Oh, but there's one beat 'em up we can't ignore. TMNT 2, the arcade. Wait, what? TMNT 2, the arcade? Oh, it's the arcade game, but it's also the second NES game. Okay, I see. You know, I've got a fix for that. You see, you do this, and now I see no issue. I gotta say that so far, this is the most impressed I've been with an arcade port. Sure, the graphics aren't really there, but the gameplay is pretty darn close in comparison. The only thing that the NES lacks here is making that true depth in the screen. This becomes extremely difficult in sections of the game where the screen is moving either forward or isometrically. But when fighting enemies, the arcade version just takes the cake. Enemies, for me at least, seem to be really hard to hit in the NES version, while the arcade is just a lot more accurate. And how can you go without dialogue during the boss fights? That's like the best part. Well, I still think NES games are a no-go. I guess 8 bits are just not enough to handle some of these games. But now, with 16-bit, we're cutting it really close to the actual arcade experience. Let's look and see if Genesis did what Nintendo couldn't in making Double Dragon authentic to the arcade. Whoa, Speedy Gonzales, what's the big issue? With legs like that, you can catch up to those bad guys in no time. I gotta say, I'm actually quite impressed. I haven't even played this game until doing this review, and it's really faithful to the original arcade. But wait, why are the characters on the screen so small, and the rest of the game is modeled exactly the same as the arcade? It's just kinda weird. Also, I'll admit I don't have a proper arcade stick for the Genesis, but am not willing to pay $50 for one. So let's move on to the Super Nintendo, where I do own a proper arcade stick for the fighting games ported to the system. Man, they really couldn't do a cool intro for this like the arcade has? Alright. Yep, that's sluggish in comparison. Like, the arcade is really smooth, and your inputs and timing is just so much better than on here. Not to mention, the music is just awful sounding in comparison to the richness in the arcade. The Genesis version fixes most of these pet peeves, but the FM synthesis just doesn't match, and the sound effects are horrendous. Turbo just literally makes this worse, as the choppiness is even more blistering awful when they sped up the movement. Let's see if... oh, sorry, this one doesn't exist. Let's see if Mortal Kombat got some justice. Wow, I gotta hand it to them. They almost pulled off this game perfectly. The sprite work is almost 1-to-1, and really it's barely noticeable that there are missing frames making it run on the Super Nintendo. I just don't understand why the music on the Super Nintendo so far is just so bad. It's got all the instruments and sound effects recreated to a T, but lacks that brightness and stereo width. And yeah, I don't really believe in one of these, so this one's off the table. Now, we're at the point where console and arcade aren't too different hardware-wise, so the chances of them being should be slim, right? I swear, you can't go into any Goodwill without seeing a copy of Midway Arcade Treasures for the PS2. They always pick the most random games as well. It's like, yes, I know, Midway has like 50 arcades, but when you put 5 notable games on it and the rest are who really cares? Not to mention, the one I have seems to have the most games, making their system of picking games just random. This is all just basically emulation, so finally, we are to a point where the entire game is the same. Finally, I did it! I can play Robotron authentically! Let me just get the controller and...
No. 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 No, no, no.
I just can't do it, all right? I'm a purist. I have to have the authentic experience of playing these games like they were back in the arcade. But how am I supposed to do that when these ports always lack something?
Hey, dude.
What?
Jeez, dude. Did you wake up with piss in your cereal or something? Nah, some guys were just at the door. They told me that they had a small arcade cabinet for you or something like that. I told them to screw off. I swear, undercover IRS agents think I'm stupid or something.
Wait, what? Hey, sorry about that. Just leave it at the doorstep, okay? Thank you. Whew. Well, I'm glad I don't have to mess around with those ports anymore, because really, nothing can beat the real thing, and that goes for anything. Just like my toilet. I swear to God, Chris, if my perfectly good toilet gets ruined, it's your money.